I mean, you can call somebody your brother, but brotherhood is something else.
Oh, I like that's beautiful. How you just said that, man. For real, for real. You and that what you just said, you got to put that on YouTube and maybe even make it a clip. Cause that's beautiful. I haven't heard too many people explain it like what you just said.
Well, I'm going to go into that. As a matter of fact, let's spend some time on that. You want to go into that?
Yeah. That's why I said we can go in because that's something that people need to know.
Okay. Cause see, it's easy for even a blood brother, okay, to call you, this is my brother. It's like my sister would tell somebody if they saw me, she would say, that's my brother. But how do you treat him? You know, you don't have a brother and sisterhood going on between you two. Like Angel calls me Brother David. But see, that's like the Christian saying Jesus Christ.
Right.
You know, so they say Christ like Christ is his last name. Christ is his title.
Yep.
You know, this is what I was telling my friend Bernard Conley when I finally talked to him, because he said Jesus Christ. I said, why do y'all say his name like Christ is his last name? I said, Christ is his title. He is the fulfiller. He is your Messiah. So that's what you have to announce what he is to the world. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, you're supposed to say Jesus the Christ.
Right.
Not Jesus Christ.
And another way of saying his name, or it really means the anointed Savior. So it's like you rob this, just emphasizing on what you just said. It's a title. It's not his name. Not really.
Yeah, because that's what Christ means, the anointed one.
Yeah.
You know, so people call you, call me Brother David, but how do you treat him? You put that brother before his name because it's common to call me Brother David. And then he'll put an initial on the BD. You see? It doesn't mean anything to you. When you turn it into a initial thing, you're telling this person that it really doesn't mean anything. Well, you can play with it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
See, I can call you Brother Josh, and you know that I mean that.
Right.
Because when I say Brother Josh, there's a love and affection and compassion present when I say it. And can't nobody tell me otherwise, because when I say it, that's what I'm feeling. I really mean that.
Right.
Anytime I tell my mother, you have another son who lives in Texas that you have not yet met. When I say Brother Josh, you better believe that I mean that.
Right.
Because there's a brotherhood going on between us. There's love, compassion, consideration, caring. Even when I was having those suicide fits, you didn't say, oh, well, you're young, you know how Yah feels about that. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That was Angel's attitude. Like, Yah don't feel too good, so it's up to you, Brother David. You know what I'm saying? Because the scriptures speak against that. So he's still saying, do it if you want, but religiously it's wrong.
Right.
See, that's not brotherhood. That's not brotherhood at all. Now, if even right now, if Angel was to call me and say, BD, I'm having suicidal thoughts and I'm feeling like I want to take my own life, I would ask him, what's going on? To hell with what we just been through, to hell with what me cutting you off and all of that. That doesn't mean anything. What's going on with you? Well, me and Song got into it and blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't quote scriptures. I wouldn't tell him he's going to hell. Let's go into why you're feeling like that. Let's identify it. Let's get back to your right mind. That's what that's about. That's brotherhood.
Right.
See, brotherhood, that's a moving and living thing. A brotherhood is a manifestation of how you treat one another, how you talk to one another. It's a living thing. It's love. It's compassion. It's consideration. It's doing things for one another. It's action. This is what the black community don't understand.
Right.
You come up to somebody you don't even know on the street. Hey, bro, how you doing? I used to always tell them, what makes me your brother? Because I'm black, that doesn't mean anything.
Nope.
And see, that's the lie that, and I'm sorry, but if you go all the way back to slavery, Africans never called themselves brothers.
Yeah, I think that's more of a modern thing with the American Negro.
Absolutely. And where that came from, that didn't even root in the American Negro. That rooted out of the mouth of the Europeans because they had everybody sleeping with each other. So the Europeans said, well, hell, all these niggas are related. And so as time went on, black people started, black men started calling each other brothers and sisters and all of that because it came out of a accusation of black people being this big cesspool of incest. And people just, why don't you study and find out where these things come from? And then as the struggle went on, as time went on, when that information, you might as well say, diminished, then because we all went through the struggle, they identified themselves as brothers and sisters in the struggle. Because during slavery, they still didn't call themselves brothers and sisters. I don't think that started, I can't be accurate, but I don't think that started, this whole brother and sister stuff started, I don't think that started until like in the early 1920s. And that's why white people come up to you right now and call you bro. What's up, bro? Because they see the color of your skin and they call you bro because this is what these niggas do. They call each other's brothers,
That's something to think about.
Yeah, and see, white people, especially white men, want to come up and call you bro just to get your trust in them. Because these white people know what brotherhood is. They know. Because it's already ingrained in their culture. And it's so ingrained in their culture, they don't even have to call one another bro. It's in their actions when they put their minds together to accomplish something. Now in the 80s, I would say in 85, that's when I started noticing white boys calling each other bros. And I noticed it was the college students and the skateboard riders and those type of guys started calling each other bros. Black people, our community say bro, they say bros. They put the S on it. But what I noticed is when they would use the term bros in their community, it seemed like it was more of an affectionate phrase with them. When they used it, it seems like from me listening to them, whenever they would use the term bros in their community, when I would listen to their conversation, they would only use it when they really needed one another to understand exactly what they meant.
Right.
You know, and this is just my observation of listening to young white men talk to each other. Once I started noticing, they started using the word, the phrase bros. And I'm like, why are they using the phrase bros? Is it a racial thing? Or what is it? And so once I started listening to them, they would use that phrase whenever they really needed each other to understand something, or when they would use that towards each other in regards to them being peers in certain areas of sports, mostly sports, like skateboarding, dirtback riding. I noticed that with them. Skateboarding, dirtback riding, hockey. What other sports? More sports that were not so absolutely mainstream, like football, basketball, stuff like that.
Right.
It's what I noticed. It was the skateboard riders, it was the hockey players, and it was the dirt bike riders.
Well, it's a type of culture, you know. What about the rock people? What about the rockers? I'm pretty sure they called each other bros.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh. Man, I'm glad you brought that up. The heavy metalers. That's
exactly why I was going with this. I know, growing up, I used to listen to heavy metal. I know that term bro was real popular back in those days.
Yeah. But you want to know something, Josh? You want to know what I noticed about the heavy metalers?
What?
By me being around celebrities, what I noticed, and by me living out here in Las Vegas anyway, what I noticed is that the heavy metalers are very cool with black people.
Right.
The ones that I met out here in Las Vegas, all the time that I've been out here, because I've been to a lot of conventions, man. I've been to a lot of conventions out here, just to observe, because a lot of these conventions, if they're not free, they really don't cost a whole lot to get into. No more between $15 to $30. And a lot of the conventions that I went to primarily were the conventions to where I had absolutely no interest in what was going on in there at all. That's exactly why I used to go to them. And I'll compare that to something. When I was in school, the subject that I hated the most, I took it.
For real?
More so. I hated math, so I took up more math classes.
That's actually genius.
My mother said, why are you signing up for all these math classes when you hate math? I said, that's exactly why I'm signing up for math classes. She said, but you hate math. I said, that's why I'm signing up. She said, that doesn't make sense. I said, Mom, that makes perfect sense to me. It's like somebody got you on the ropes, and what you're going to do, you're going to stand there and let them hit you and just conquer you?
Right.
Or are you going to fight back and get up off them ropes?
Get up off them ropes?
You're going to get up off the ropes. And the only way you're going to get up off the ropes, how are you going to get up off the ropes? You have to study and analyze.
Right.
Huh?
I'm saying what you just said.
Yeah, you have to study and analyze what's in front of you and figure out a way to get past that. So I took up more math classes to the point to where I wasn't able to say that I hate math now because I understand it more. I don't feel threatened by math because I know math now.
Right.
I know it well enough to function, but once I got into those so-called higher levels of math. I'm like, okay, y'all, this is ridiculous. Nobody's going to use this stuff. You know, like a trigonometry and all this. Oh, okay. All right. I got enough. You know, because some of the elders in the neighborhood, I heard one of the elders was telling someone in Ray's barbershop. He said, "You want to know something?" He said, "A lot of people walking around here mocking people about not having a higher level of education." He said, "But let me tell you what education is." He said, "If you can read, write, and count," he said, you educated."
Yeah, he's right. And all that, like you said, all that trigonometry and stuff, man, it ain't. You don't need it unless you some type of unless you some type of programmer or engineer or something. That's the only time, or scientist. That's the only time you need to know stuff like that.
Right. That's the only time. And due to the fact that I wasn't interested in any of those areas, I didn't really feel as though it was a necessity.
But it's funny you wasn't interested because I could see you being that type of person in another life. Because of the type of mind you have, as far as like you being an architect or something. Yeah. I always thought that I would be a brilliant scientist, or somebody who would be a great engineer in putting things together to send to space and all of that. I always I thought about working for NASA. As well. I can see you in a spacesuit or being one of the computer people or something. I can see you.
Mm-hmm. I thought about all of that stuff when I was coming up. I wanted to be an air traffic controller. And then when Reagan got into office and he messed up the economy, and 100,000 or 120,000 air traffic controllers had got laid off, even though I was too young back in the days to be an air traffic controller. When Reagan got in office and all of those air traffic control people lost their jobs, I'm like, shoot, hell no, I'm not gonna put all that time in being an air traffic control person. Just all of a sudden, you know, the government can just turn everything off. But you know, due to the fact that I studied so closely about this wicked government, and I found out about this government very early in my life. This is one of the reasons why I was telling Vince and Edward and all of my martial art brothers in Chicago, when they talked about going to the Marines and fighting for this country, I said, you niggas need to stay out of the military. I said, because y'all don't understand what type of country y'all fighting for.
Right.
And they said, well, you know, we all got to go do our duty. I was like, I don't know who you talking about when you say all. I said, but I don't owe no duty to this country.
Right.
And so they go over there to the Marines. They get in the Desert Storm. And then what's this other one, that last one that they had in Afghanistan?
Yeah,
they both come home. Yeah, they both come home. Vince can't hold a job because he's got that stress syndrome, and Edward came back. Yeah, Edward came back and he's fighting cancer. I told you to stay your asses out.
If only they had listened to you.
It's crazy. No, you don't owe this country anything. And if you walk around feeling like the country owes you something, you're still lost, because that's going to mess with your incentive to produce and your whole motivation.
Yeah, because you got a lot of, in regards to that fact you just said, you got a lot of our brothers and sisters in the Black Conscious movement who talk about reparations this and reparations that. And on one hand, I understand about where they come from, but it's like a lot of them, because they want the government to pay us back for what our ancestors went through, they don't really do anything. And I'm like, the hell with that. That's
just a common subject. I mean, that's just like Farrakhan. Whenever Farrakhan runs out of things to talk about, he goes down two paths. One, he attacks the Jews, or he starts talking about reparations. And it's time for black folks to understand reparations will never happen.
Yep.
It ain't never going to happen. Let it go.
And reparations is the ones we're going to generate from our own talent.
Mm-hmm. See, because in the Third Reich, when Hitler had put Himmler in charge of the SS, he told them that the women, the only way that they will be able to marry and breed with an Aryan, they have to prove their German race going all the way back to 1750.
Dang. Oh, shoot, there will be too many women doing that.
Yeah, so you know, they have to prove their German bloodline, their pure Aryan bloodline going all the way back to 1750. So black folks over here wanting reparations for our ancestors. Okay, prove to me that you are a descendant of these ancestors you're talking about. Number one, tell me who your ancestors was.
Most of us can't even do that up until like 100 years ago.
You know, tell me who were your ancestors. You know, they just throw that word around. Our ancestors. Nigga, who was your ancestor? Name them. I got a check right here on this desk for $100 million. Tell me who your ancestor was and prove to me that your ancestors came out of Africa during the slave trade, and you can and you can take this check and you can walk right out my office. Prove it. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a year to prove it. I'll give you a whole year. The majority of these Negroes and these niggas in this country, they are not able to prove anything other than the color of their skin. And a whole lot of them are getting involved in these DNA tests, and they're getting really disappointed because they're starting to find out that a whole lot of their ancestors was rooted in Europe. And it just so happened that a whole lot of the Europeans in their family breeded probably like three to five generations after they came out of Europe. Then that's when the African came into their families. Well, you know, the black started, 3 generations after your other ancestors, right? Yeah, but do you claim your other ancestors? Yes. Okay, then. It means you are not full-blooded African. Now, if you can prove to us that you are full-blooded African from the slave trade, then you can take this check and you can walk out of this room. But if you cannot prove that, you do not get reparations. Well, white folks raped us and all of that. Yeah, yep, all of that is true. And see, this is the whole point. Why are you worried about reparations? Give me Negroes. Give me. You are not going to get reparations. That's just a cool thing to talk about.
What about when other races have got it? What would you say to them about them getting it? Because that's a big reason why a lot of them are up, is because they got paid what their ancestors did.
Yeah. Well, that's something that black folks are just going to have to deal with. Because I know that when the Jews got their reparations, they was able to prove that they were descendants of the Holocaust. And most of the Jews who got reparations from Germany were Holocaust survivors. It's all about where these reparations are being aimed at. Some of the Indians got their reparations because they were able to prove that they were back there during the times of Wounded Knee. These people were able to prove their bloodline. They were able to prove their bloodline. But if you look at the black community today, and I'm just going to say this, and a whole lot of people disagree. Number one, I don't give a damn if you agree or disagree. The whole thing is this. If you put reparations, like say if they gave every black person in this country $100,000 each, what do you think is going to happen to the black community?
You remember that Dave Chappelle skit when that happened? It was even though we laughed at it, it's sad that that's exactly what would happen if we got reparations. You saw that skit, right?
I don't think so.
The Dave Chappelle show was very popular. What would happen? And niggas was buying up everything, cars, and just doing crazy stuff. It was funny, and that came out like 2004 on the Chappelle show. It was real popular, very much so talked about. But if you think about it, that's exactly what we were doing. That's why I feel a lot of people like we wouldn't deserve it because we were ruining it with our mind state today. Because most of us wouldn't invest it and build up communities. We just do nigga stuff again, buy Gucci and stuff.
Yeah. You don't have an economy. And black folks ain't going to want to give up some money to start an economy because a whole lot of these nigga leaders can't be trusted because they work for the government.
Yup.
You going to get the money in Farrakhan? You can't give it to Farrakhan because Farrakhan made $183 million on the first Million Man March. How much of that went into the black community? Not one dime.
Right.
He invested in the Nation of Islam, period. So you give that kind of money to a community that doesn't know anything about, it goes back to brotherhood, you're going to have a community that's going to destroy themselves. And by them not having an economy, the only thing they're going to do is put the money right back into the same economy that gave it to them. It's never going to work. And so black folk can just forget all about it, move on.
Yeah, that's a pipe dream at this point.
It's always been a pipe dream. I mean, you know, it's just the same as that Marcus Garvey stuff. Go back to Africa. Africans don't want your ass. We done marched, we done fought, we done, you know, we done established something for them. They come over here today and look down on us.
Yep.
So go back to Africa. When the Africans come over here, they act like they don't want to have nothing to do with us. And can you blame them? I would feel the same way, considering the mentality that black people are in today.
Right.
I don't want to have nothing to do with these Negroes.
And we both genetically tied to these people. We don't deal with them.
Mm-hmm. So when it all boils down to it, any intelligent so-called black person understands that if you looking for your community to, if you looking for your evolution, I'll put it that way, to be based on your community, that's a bad way to think.
Yeah.
That's a terrible way to think, because if you waiting for black folks to get it together in order for you to rise, you will never rise. Never. Ever. So you better think about yourself and what you need to do with your life and go on with your life. Because it ain't no brotherhood in the black community. Everybody call themselves brothers and sisters. It ain't no sisterhood and it ain't no brotherhood.
No.
It ain't no life. It ain't no love. It ain't no light. Love and light. See, that's a cool thing to say. It was a couple of months ago, I went into a 7-Eleven, and as I was paying for my stuff, this brother came up to me. He was next in line, and I was talking to this Mexican cashier that I know, and while he's paying with paying for his stuff, brother, was liking some of the stuff I was saying, and I guess he figured just because of the way that I talked, that I was so-called quote unquote conscious. And as he left, he gave me a pound. Said, "All right, bro, love and light, love and light." And I'm like, looked at him, I'm like, yeah, all right. Mm-hmm. But it goes back to what we mentioned before, is the reality of brotherhood. I mean, this is one of the reasons why Kim, when Angel and I was in that ministry, Exalt, this is the reason why Kim had called me that night, and she said, "You need to cut ties from him." She said, "Because he's not your brother." She said, "He's not even your friend." She said, "What he is a Judas." She said, "He's your Judas."
Right.
So it's like Judas called all the disciples his brothers. He even called Yeshua his brother. But he wasn't nobody's brother because he betrayed them. His mind was always had some ulterior motive going on. And that's similar, if not equivalent to the whole crabs in a barrel thing.
Right.
This is the reason why it is more prevalent in the black community that when you are coming up, keep as much independence as you can. Don't get so full of yourself and feel so good about yourself and think you're such a big deal that you feel as though you have to have a lot of folks around you. See, because that's the mistake that Mike made. That's the mistake that Mike made. He felt like he had to have a bunch of brothers around him, and he found out they were nothing but a bunch of leeches.
And parasites, you're right.
Yep, you have to remain uncontroversial. Number one, you can't be controversial all the time. See, because due to the fact that you make yourself notorious and controversial, people in the media start attacking you and make you feel as though you need bodyguards and all of that, and then you feel like, well, I'll get some of my own people around me, because I can't trust white folks. I'm gonna have a whole bunch of brothers around me. Shit, those are the ones that's gonna bring you down.
Yeah.
It's either gonna be the whites or the blacks. So what are you saying? You have to be intelligent when you're coming up. Don't make yourself a problem, a social problem. That's why I tell everybody, a writer's life is the perfect life for me, because I'm an introvert. I don't want to be bothered anyway. Now, a lot of my writing is controversial, but one of the primary reasons why I was telling Salam and other people that I'm never going to put my picture on my writing. And it's not that I'm afraid of being recognized. I just don't want to be recognized because I don't want to be bothered. And so if my writing does upset a whole lot of people, you ain't really going to know who David Brayboy is unless you, some stewardess or somebody who's working behind the front desk at a hotel, see my ID.
Well, then at that point, you're going to have to remove yourself from social media or something, or get everything scrubbed.
Well, I was telling you not too long ago that once my work goes out, I'm going to shut down my Facebook and my Instagram. I'm going to shut both of them down. But my point was, you don't want to be out there like that. I mean, that's what young Pharaoh is going through right now. His vanity done got him in trouble.
I've been hearing something about him. What he do now?
He's been talking too much. I can't really be precise, but he's been talking so much and a little bit too much to the point to where he's starting to piss people off now. You know, and I tried to write him a message earlier today, but you know, when I typed on his message thing, it never popped up. So, oh well, I was gonna let him know. Maybe, you know, I was gonna let him know, bro, you need to lay low for a minute. You know, until all of this blow over. But you know, these titles and all of that, young pharaoh and all.
Yeah, he believes in his own. He believes in his own mythology a bit too much. If you know what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to stay human.
Yup. All that,
you know,
God and goddess and queen, man. That's all that does is elevate your ego, and we know your ego is elevated. It's easy to fall.
Yep, and it stands out. And due to the fact you are a part of a community, to where if you feel good about yourself because of your ego, and if you get that all mixed up, you're going to have a whole lot of envious people who don't feel good about themselves. Those are the people that's going to attack you.
Yep.
Due to the fact that you feel good about yourself and they don't feel good about themselves. So they're going to attack you because they envy you. They envy what you know. They could be envious about how you look. Whatever the case may be, you're going to get attacked, and they're going to try to bring you down.
People suck, boy.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to stay far away from the black community. I don't want to have nothing to do with you.
Yep.
Don't bring me your problems. I don't care about your problems. You know, stop sending me these emails talking about, what's his name?
Black Snuff Nuff?
Yeah. Sending me these emails. He wants me to get involved in they little discussions. So, you know, and then when you go on his Facebook, he's still talking about the same old thing.
Yeah, no, he has
European Negroes. No, European Negroes and Negropeans, and you know what, dude, I don't have time for that. You know, then he wants to get into a group. You know, and I've listened to his group talk, and everybody's talking over each other. That's because you have about 3 or 4 people talking about the same subject. It's too many people. You have one over here pushing his black conscience. You have another one over here pushing the Nation of Islam's propaganda, you know, and everybody's at each other's throat talking over each other. You don't want me there because you're going to look up and you ain't going to see me. Because I'm going to click out. Because I'll have, that's chaos. That's not having a discussion. That's chaos.
Right.
You know, everybody's pushing their program. Now, if you want to talk one-on-one, that's different. You know, but having all these other people trying to push their program and they talking all over each other, no, you just a whole bunch of niggas inside of a coliseum, and everybody's around looking at you, and everybody's got their sword, and they all in the middle, standing in the middle of the coliseum, going at it. And whoever's left standing, that's the one who got his agenda passed. I ain't got time for all that. And that's not brotherhood. You know, that's just people who want to push their agenda, and you know, and it's a lot of vanity, intellectual vanity going on, and everybody just want to get on there in order to express their viewpoints on things. You know, this is the way I see it, and, you know, blah, 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 you know, blah, blah, blah. People love to debate.
Yeah.
Why do you want to debate?
Oh, you go.
No, I'm just saying, why do you want to debate? Is that the reason why you had these panels? Just so you can debate? No, thank you. I'll sit this one out. Now, if you want to produce a panel to where you have a bunch of people up there, or just let's say up to 4 people, you have to allow them to know before it even happens, we are not going to be on here debating. This is for reasoning together, and we're going to be going at different issues that's going on in the black community. And we're going to respect each other, and we're going to agree to agree. We're not going to agree to disagree, because that's poison. We're going to agree to agree. And the only way that we're going to do that, we have to be, love has to be at the root of that.
Something that ain't. And with Negroes, it's always
so you have to have a brotherhood going on so that everything can flow, because love and respect and honor is flowing. But that's a pipe dream when it comes to these Negroes. That's why I don't ever want to be bothered. Leave me out of it. Stop sending me these goddamn emails.
Right.
Because I'm not interested. But that's what brotherhood is. Brotherhood is about not just calling somebody your brother, but being his brother,
Right.
That's an action. That's something that's living. It's a movement. It's how you treat that person. It's how you feel about that person. That's brotherhood. You know, don't come in my face and call me BD or Brother David, but you stabbing me in my back, talking about me like a dog, or trying to use me to put forth your whole agenda. You know, because when did I ever give anybody the impression that I need brothers in my life?
Right.
You know, simply because I'm very honest when it comes to accepting somebody as my brother. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to fill in the void in my life, because I don't, really have any blood brothers other than Terrell, who's been out of prison all his life. But I'm not coming embracing you as a brother because my life is unfulfilled in having brothers.
Right.
I'm calling you my brother because I have every intention on treating you as a brother, as far as love, compassion, and all of the things that causes a brotherhood to function properly. And if I don't get that in return, then I'm cutting your ass off.
Right.
And he has been showing me that he doesn't know anything about brotherhood ever since I met Angel in 1999. It has always been the same agenda, and I used to find myself losing things around him. It was almost like every time he came into my life, I was always losing something.
You mean tangibly or just intangibly?
Intangibly and tangibly.
Yeah, he probably
because he was sabotaging everything. That's just like when he came here from LA and he got into this Exalt Ministries with me. I had a beautiful apartment. I was working in New York. I helped open up New York. Even though I was living alone and I was going through a healing process because of what I went through in the ministry, I was cool. I had a nice paying job. I was paying my rent, paying my child support. I had 2 cars. Everything was cool. And then I get involved with Bonnie and them and Kim and them in the ministry. Everything was going cool. Angel comes, he causes up conflict and division because she wanted to be the head minister and he was playing both sides. And at the time, Tammy met this nigga named Pepper, and after 2 weeks, she caught herself moving in with him with both of my sons, and I was telling her, you don't even know this nigga. I said, you just met this dude. I mean, you met him 2 weeks ago, and you moving my sons into an apartment with a nigga you don't even know?
Right.
So I was going through that. Then Angel stirred up all of that drama and Exalt Ministries. I was still healing. I was still deeply hurt from the ministry. And I took all of that to the job. And people noticed a difference in me. And I was too quiet. And due to the fact that I was quiet, it made everybody feel uncomfortable. That I went silent for like 3 months. I went silent for 3 months.
Right.
And when I did talk, they would ask me, because I was going by my nickname, Red, that my Uncle Shorty gave me. Because my Uncle Shorty used to call me Little Red.
Yeah,
so I took on, I took on that name, because at New York, they said, what name do you want us to use for your name tag? I said, can I use my nickname that my uncle gave me? They said, yeah, what is it? I said, Red. They said, yeah, you can use that. And so I went by the name Red there. And so they noticed that I was real quiet, because when I'm going through something, I don't talk a whole lot, because it'll come out wrong, because by me being an honest person, I don't know how to be dishonest in the way that I express myself, because if I'm in pain, I'm going to express it like that, and it's not that I don't have control over myself. It's just that I have to say it the way I mean it, so it was a few times that I made people feel uncomfortable because of the way that I used to talk. And I think I told you about the time I walked in one of the bars, because I was a bar porter there. And they said, Red, what's your favorite saying? What's your favorite saying? I said, kill them all. And they said, what? I said, kill them all. And everybody looked at me, they said, why would that be your favorite saying? I said, because kill them all. And I told them, I said, at the end at the war of Armageddon, at the end of the Bible, where it talks about the purge. I've been talking about the purge for a long time, Josh, where it talks about wiping the earth clean of all wickedness. And they said, yeah. I said, how in the Bible, when the Creator says, behold, I create a new heaven and a new earth, and the former things pass away. They said, yeah. I said, that's after the 7-year period of where all of the wicked are going to be buried. And then after all the wicked is slaughtered and buried, then the scripture says, behold, I create a new heaven and a new earth, and the former things have passed away. That's after all of the wicked have been killed. I said, I want to be a part of that army to where when the Creator says, kill them all. I said, so that's my favorite saying. I said, because that is when peace on earth, this peace on earth that everybody talks about, that's when it's really going to manifest. I said, see, when y'all say peace on earth, y'all mean politically. Peace on earth is when all of the wickedness is gone. Right. Now, as much as I made sense of that, it still made people feel uncomfortable.
That's because they're wicked.
Yeah. And so rumors had started that I was going crazy and all of that. And so they put me in the position to where I had to have a meeting with some managers. And because there was another statement that I said about the Columbine shootings.
Oh, boy. Oh, you got to tell me that.
And there was a discussion in one of the bars where everybody was upset about the Columbine shootings. And they made the mistake, and they asked me how did I felt about it. I said, well, I think those kids brought it on themselves. And everybody looked at me like, why would you say such a thing like that? I said, if you do your research, those kids were bullied by the environment. I said, those kids were made to feel as though they don't belong. I said, and it's nothing worse than any human being feeling like they are no longer a part of the human function, the human family. I said, and there's an African proverb that says, when a child feels as though it is neglected or denied or rejected by the village, that child seeks to burn the village down.
And you know,
do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, you know, it reminds me of Killmonger. That's what he did.
Yeah. I asked him, I said, so do y'all understand what I'm saying? Those kids were made to feel like they were outcast. I said, and when you make somebody feel as though they are the outcast, because these people are not going to go away. They're going to turn around and they're going to attack the people who made them feel as such. They say, oh, we understand what you're saying. Yeah, they say that in your face, but then they go to management. And so when I had the meeting, I told them that's what I meant. They said, well, a lot of people around here are afraid of you now, so we think that you should resign. I said, what have I done for me to resign? I said, number one, you're asking me to resign because you know you don't have nothing on me to terminate me. You don't have anything on me. Nothing. You have nothing on me. You can't fire me because I haven't done anything. And so they felt like it's best that you resign. So by me being under so much pressure from Tammy moving my sons in with some dude who eventually ended up putting his hands on them, you know, she purposely got pregnant by him to mock me and to create a snatch that baby out of her funky ass. Nope. Miscarriage, bitch. Miscarriage. Your motives is wrong. I ain't gonna let you parade some other kid in front of this man after this man. This man hasn't done nothing to you.
Right.
Her family was so happy. Oh, Tammy's getting ready to have a baby. God said, no, she's not. Miscarriage. That shut everybody's mouth. Mm-hmm. Tammy lost the baby. Yeah, she sure did. Because her mind wasn't right. Well, why did God allow the baby to live? To show you don't do things like that to mock.
Right.
There's a dual component for everything. Well, I'm going to have a baby to get on his nerve. The dual component was the creator saying, no, you are not. How about that? So I was dealing with that. I was dealing with Angel and his manipulation and coming in between me and Kim and being mocked and everything, and still healing from the ministry and what the ministry did to me. So I went home and I told my mother. She said, you know what? She said, you got enough on you. She said, everything that's going on with you right now, she said, you don't need no more battles to fight. She said, so why are you going to stay there and fight with these people? She said, just go ahead and quit. Go ahead and quit. She said, you got other options. So I quit. So I had already had some money saved up. And so I went ahead, all right, I just resigned. I quit. And so after a while, my money ran out, and that's how I ended up having to stay with him. You know, I think I had that apartment for like another 2 months. I paid my rent up for like another 2 months. and we hit the slow season, the winter season. So I didn't find in work quick enough, and so he offered me to stay with him, and that was another way of Angel trying to contain me, because I had left Exalt Ministries behind his madness. This was before I was able to figure everything out, and how much he was behind everything. So he had left the ministry because the ministry had failed, and so he wanted to do something with me, and so that's how that went. But it still wasn't any brotherhood there because of his intentions and his motives. So brotherhood is deep. Actually, it's really not deep. It seems like it's deep because real brotherhood hasn't been really practiced for so many years. It only seems as though it's deep because it's been fabricated by so many people that open up their mouth and they call you brother.
Yeah, it's so foreign to us. You're right. That's why it seems deep.
Mm-hmm. Because, see, it's like when I was in Georgia, and some of the people who I was working with, I didn't give them titles until I built up that type of relationship with them. It was a young lady there named Kim. Very sweet, very sweet. And Kim gave me this daughter vibe. And so I started calling Kim my daughter. And so that's the type of relationship her and I had. I looked over, I talked to Kim like she was my daughter. I still do. You know, and I looked after her like she was my daughter. There was a young guy there. His name was Pierre. You know, I couldn't stand Pierre's Jamaican ass at first because I felt like Pierre was too arrogant. You know, and he would go around and he wouldn't do nothing. He would mess with people too much because the head manager there named Dwayne, he was Jamaican. So I said, oh, so this is a Jamaican thing between y'all, huh? And Dwayne said, what you mean by that? I said, that's why Pierre felt like he could just walk around here and just do whatever the hell he wanted to do, right? And see, and by me not being a Georgia nigga, Dwayne wasn't used to somebody being this honest. Like, damn. So that's why I said, so that's why this little nigga can just walk around here, right, and just do whatever the hell he wants. Because he's Jamaican. He's Jamaican like you, huh? No, it's not a Jamaican thing. I said, it's got to be a Jamaican thing. I said, because he's the only one that I see around here who he just walks around here, just do whatever the hell he wants. He can come in here late every day. He don't get rolled up. He walk around here without his cap on, his shirt on. He walk around here, he want to show little muscles, and he does that while you're here. What he does while you're here, I notice nobody else can do that while you're here. So it's got to be a Jamaican thing. So after I had approached him with that, then he put a little bit more discipline on Pierre because I exposed his ass. I said, so maybe I should start walking around here saying, yeah, man. Maybe I should grow some, maybe I should, start growing some dreads and stuff like that. Then maybe I should just walk around here and just do whatever the hell I want to do. So Dwayne stayed away from me, especially after that, because see, them Georgia folks, they ain't used to honest people. There's a bunch of shady niggas out there. And see, being shady in Georgia, that's their method of honesty. When you're honest, you're rude. But when you're shady, you're being truthful. Because that's the level that they're on out there. Why you gotta be all like this, dude? Why Why you got to be so honest? Why can't you just be shady like everybody else so we can all get along? You know, that's why I tell people if I had my way, I'd blow Georgia off the map. I'd blow it up. Because you would think that out there in so-called Chocolate City, it would be brotherhood out there, but brotherhood ain't out there either. And it's a shame that Georgia is called Chocolate City simply because of the color. The majority of the people out there are black. Yeah. Ain't that something? The only thing they doing is talking about color. But look at Philadelphia. They call that the city of brotherhood. They showing they show not calling Atlanta that, because Atlanta is not the city of brotherhood, bro. It is not. You would think Atlanta, Georgia would be called the city of brotherhood. Hell no. Them shady ass niggas out there, right. The dirty South, they are the only people who I know that pride themselves on that term, dirty South. I mean, them niggas love, they proud of being dirty and foul out there. They proud of that. Well, you know how it is, man. You know, this is dirty South. That's just the way it is out here. And then they wonder why some of them getting shot in their damn head by people who don't come up in the dirty South. Well, you know, man, that's the way it is out here. Bang, bang. That ain't the way it is where I come from. So they want you to accept, well, you know, nigga, you know, that's just the way it is out here. You know, this the ATL, nigga. Now say Atlanta, Georgia. Say the first and the last. The ATL, you niggas ain't that hip out here to where you can use initials, ATL. You niggas ain't all of that. Say Atlanta, Georgia. See, where I'm from, we could say Chi-Town. That don't necessarily mean it's a good term, but we've earned Chi-Town. We've earned that. But how you gonna be a whole bunch of faggots and got the nerve to say this the ATL? No. Ain't nothing hip about Atlanta, Georgia. Ain't nothing so down hip about Atlanta, Georgia that you can say this the ATL. Yeah, right. That's why that movie that T.I. made was weak. It was weak. That movie didn't say nothing. You look at that movie, you ask them, well, what was your favorite part in the ATL? When we saw at the skating rink, yeah, simple ass skating rink scene. That's it. That movie wasn't saying. That movie didn't say nothing.
Right.
And you know this Coming to America movie. How come black folks just can't look at a movie and enjoy it?
And what?
Everything.
Okay.
It's just everything has to be a damn debate. That movie sucked. That wasn't African culture. I'm very disappointed. I like the first movie better. The first movie wasn't African culture, idiot.
Nope.
Zamunda doesn't exist, just like Wakanda doesn't exist. Coming to America was directed by a Jewish woman. Do your research. And everything in so-called Zamunda was Western. They wore Western suits. They talk like Westerns. They act like Western. This person, you know, like he said in the first movie, he said, this man is beneath me and so is his daughter. That's like a white person talking. That's Western. That's a Western mentality.
Yup.
King, prince, Western mentality. That's Western. And one of the reasons why your ancestors got along with so well with Great Britain is because they had the same mentality, king and queen. That's all that shit. It's the same way. That's how you got here in America. everybody's arguing, going at each other's throats, and insulting each other behind a comedy. I'm like, wow, look at these niggas. They at each other's throats behind a fantasy place called Zamunda, the same way they was at each other's throats behind a fantasy place made by another white man, a white Jew, named Wakanda. Incredible. Leave me alone. I'm staying out their way.
Right.
I ain't got no time for it. But that whole brotherhood thing is a serious thing, man. It's serious, but it should be something very common. And the reason why it's not common is because it hasn't been practiced. Honestly,
it's in low practice here in America.
Mm-hmm.
But I know in Eastern countries they still practice it big time.
Yeah, they do.
And I guess that's another reason why when you went to Pakistan and India, you fell in real quick with them because they could see that you did.
Yep. And that's why when I came back that time, I'm at the airport. If you remember me telling you, I felt like when I stepped off the plane, I felt like I stepped inside of a toilet. And I didn't even want to, it's like I think I told you when I was getting ready to step into an elevator. People say, you can come in. I just said, just go. I didn't even want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to talk to nobody. You don't really know what you're in until you come back to it.
Right.
And that's the time I told you when I went back to work at the Rio, and I was real edgy and distant, and my peer, my co-worker, Pierre Robert, this Filipino Mexican guy, he pulled me into the office. He said, "What's going on with you, man?" He said, "Why are you so edgy and distant?" He said, "You haven't really said a whole lot since you've been back." He said, "Man, we used to talk all the time." And the tears started flowing. And so he got up and he locked the door. He said, "Bro, what's going on?" I'm like, "Man, I hate this place. I hate it." And he said, "Is there something I've done?" He said, "It's not you, man." And I told him, I said, "I've been somewhere else, man." I said, "I didn't realize how much of a shithole that I was living in until I came back here." I said, "You have to go somewhere else to understand exactly where you're at."
Right.
I said, "I've been someplace else, man. I've seen something else. I've felt something else. I felt something when I was over there. I felt something." I said, "And what we call love over here," I said, "is garbage. What we call brotherhood over here is garbage." I said, nothing here is real. Everything is fabricated here." I said, I don't like being here." He said, "Well, just take it easy, man. Just take it easy. It'll be all right." He said, "Just go and get you something to eat and chill. Even if you have to."
No, you go.
He said, even if you have to chill for the rest of the shift," he said, just let me know. What were you going to say?
Okay, I'm glad you brought up that whole "you'll be all right" part, because I hate when people tell me that or whatever, because man, I want to, it's like instead of being all right, and we both know what that means, because we didn't have many frustrations over the years, even with that whole what is that platitude? That's just another platitude that people say. I'm like, man, instead of being all right, man, I want to be in a position to where somebody comes to me like you or whatever. I'm like, "Here, brother, come out here. I'll fly you out. You can stay. You ain't got to worry about money." That's real. Like you said, that's real brotherhood right there when you got that type of position. But we got to put ourselves in that position where we can do that.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm leading to. So it's like when I got home, Edward David had called me, And he asked me, he said, how did the flight go? And I told him it was cool. And he said, what's the matter? I told him what, how I felt. And I told him about, what I told you at the airport and what happened at work. He said, you know what happened? I said, what's that? He said, you came back too early. You remember me telling you about that?
Yeah, I remember you telling me. You always bring that up, that when he tell you that. You bring that up every now and then or whatever. I remember that story well when you came back. I think that was 2009?
Yep. He said, you came back too early. He said, you left too early. And I told him, I said, what am I supposed to do? She said, do you have any more time off? I said, yeah, I've got some vacation time and some PTO time. He said, what you need to do, he said, you need to combine all of that together. He said, take whatever vacation time you have left and your PTO, your paid time off. He said, you need to bunch that up together and come back. I said, yeah, but I really can't afford. I don't want to spend that kind of money. He said, I got you, bro. He said, I got you, brother. Don't even worry about it. He said, so go to work and see if you can take a leave of absence or whatever you can do. He said, but your problem is, he said, you went back too early. He said, you should have stayed out here a little bit longer. So that night, I went back, I checked my time, and I tried to go another week, and I couldn't do it. And so I pulled Robert into the office. I told him, I said, I got to get out of here, man. I can't take it. I got to get out of here. He said, you really need to get out? I said, bro, I need to leave. I need to get out of here. He said, okay, man. He says, I had a paperwork when you come in tomorrow night, and then we realized that the next night was my off night. I said, look, have my paperwork for me. I said, I'm coming in, even though it's my off night. I said, I'm coming on, so I can sign the paperwork. You just send the paperwork through and get me the time off I need. So he did that, and that's the time I went back for like another month and a half. And when that's when he said, now that you're back, he said, you know what you need to do? He said, become a citizen of the Hamasala. I said, so what are you talking about? He said, what you need to do, Dave, he said, you need to get up in the morning, just walk down the mountain and go to breakfast. He said, just be a citizen. He said, that's what you need to do. He said, when you came out here before, you were a tourist. He said, and you started fading into being a citizen because you started getting used to the people and the people started getting used to you. He said, and right in the middle of that, that's when you had to go back. He said, and that's what hurt you. I'm like, oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So that morning, I walked down the mountain for the first time. I went and got me some breakfast. And it was nice. It was beautiful. Yeah, that's why I miss being over there with him so much, That's why it hurt me when he passed so much. I felt like my ties over there in India was cut off by way of his death.
Now, I'm pretty sure that if you went back now with the right resource, you can go back to his village and find out what happened to his children. Then you could visit his children and maybe even help them.
I heard rumors that his children was staying with his sister. I think she took over their custody. I mean, his wife's sister, because his wife had sisters. Edward David didn't have any brothers and sisters.
That's even more tragic.
Yeah, his kids went to his wife's sister after she passed from malaria. So when I do go back, I'm going to have to really have myself together financially so I'll be able to, track them down. That's if the universe move on me to do that, because you never know. I might track them down and get disappointed because I don't know her sister.
Yeah.
You know, her sister may be prejudiced. Who knows? You know, because sometimes when you go back to a place, sometimes you be disappointed.
Oh, yeah, you ain't lying about that.
So, me, when I experience India again, and if you coming with me, it's going to be strictly spiritual. I'm not going to...
I think about that all the time, man. I was thinking about that earlier. Like, man, whenever I do, whenever we do go overseas, man, I want us not to step foot on American soil for at least 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about, well, when we do that, we're gonna have our paper together, or whatever. So we ain't got to worry about being back in Babylon. It's really for me. I ain't never truly been overseas. I mean, when I went on the cruise, I don't really even count that because you know you still a tourist, you still an American on the cruise, and you only there for a few hours, then you gotta get back on the ship. But you actually been overseas where you start to die to your Americanness. I ain't never had that happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that I got to experience. And the only way to experience that truly is to not be stepping foot back in your country for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember that moment when I died to my American, that Western. Man, I told you about that. When I was sitting there in that suit, I broke out in a sweat. Whew. He said, "You okay?" I never felt so filthy in my life.
Right.
The last time ever in my life had a suit on.
It has that been true?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you haven't worn a suit since what? 2009?
Yep. Yeah, I was tempted when I was in Georgia with these Jehovah's Witness folks, but I still pulled away from it. Because when I went into meditation, the universe is showing me, don't be manipulated into anything simply because you're an open wound right now. You're very vulnerable in certain areas. Very vulnerable. And see, people try to convert you when they know that you're at your lowest point and when you're at your most vulnerable point. That's when they move in and they try to convert you. And that's what happened out there. You know, I was going through it and I was thrown to the wolves, you might as well say, by Salam, and then I got out of that stuff with Kathy, with her energies and vibrations and all that shit. And I was in a very desperate and vulnerable position, and they took advantage of that.
Right.
You know, that's when they came up with this ridiculous perception that, you know, all of that stuff happened between you and Salam just so you can get here to Georgia so you can join the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah, they'll make up anything to get you to join.
Hey, religious folks is like that. They are the master manipulators.
Yup.
Like they don't have Kingdom Halls out here in Las Vegas. So Jehovah used Salam to get me to Georgia to be abused by her because she's been abused. And then I go over there to Kathy and I put up with their drugs and the crackheads and the energies and the vibrations and the crystals and the burning sage and all of that old madness. All of that to just become a Jehovah's Witness in Georgia, a place that I am absolutely unhappy at. Yeah, it all makes sense. Wow. Incredible. But going back to us going over to India, I don't want to go over there with a mission.
Right.
Finding my friend's children.
Yeah, it's stressful.
It has to be strictly spiritual. And if it manifests, like say if it manifests like you and I were somewhere, right?
Right.
And we're at a you might as well say a guru's place or a Buddhist temple, you know, just observing, and all of a sudden a little East Indian kid named, I forget what his name, Sharov or something like that, come up behind me, Uncle David, and I turned around and there he is. Then that's a manifestation. It's more safer to deal with manifestations because manifestations are sacred.
And then now that you don't have to force it.
Right. They're sacred. They just manifest, you know. Because I don't know her sister. I don't know how she feels about Americans, and let alone so-called Black Americans. I don't know. You know, and his children were very small at the time. Who knows if they even remember me?
They probably don't.
You know. 2009? Come on. It's 2021 now. These are not kids no more. They got to be like in the 20, 23, 24 years old.
Oh, how old were they back then?
Let me see. They wasn't toddlers. I think they was like 7. One was 7, one was 9.
Oh dang! They are young adults then now.
Yeah,
man.
That's why they called me Uncle. You know, they saw me, called me Uncle David. You know, I mean, these wasn't little toddlers. You know, my concern for them was more intense due to the fact that they wasn't toddlers. I'm sorry to say that, but you know, when children are not toddlers and you're able to interact with them, you grow a relationship and an attachment to them. But when they're babies, you know, the relationship is more distant due to the fact, and more detached due to the fact that, well, unattached due to the fact that they're babies. You know, but these were like little nieces and nephews. You know, that's my concern for them was real strong. You know, when especially after their mom had passed, I'm like, but damn, yeah, he's gone, and now she's gone. What's going on?
And Dave, what about going back to? Do you plan on going back to Pakistan? Because you don't never talk about that. Going back there.
No. I was smuggled. You remember I was smuggled there?
Yeah, I remember. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why you went there.
Yeah, I was smuggled there because my passport. If I'd have got caught in Pakistan, I went to jail.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's a no-go. I mean, but nowadays, Pakistan, I imagine that anybody can just go there now. It ain't as crazy as it was probably when you went.
I mean, I could have went to Pakistan legally. It's just that he needed me to meet. That was a random thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that story. Yeah.
Yeah, that was random, you know. And if I would have got caught over there in Rama, Pakistan, if they'd asked me for my passport would have said India. What are you doing here?
Yeah, because Indians and Pakistan, they hate each other. And speaking of that, because I know like why are they so divided? Cause I know it has to do with the war and stuff. Do you know anything about that? Because they used to be one people at one time in one nation.
It's politics. It's the effect of Great Britain. It's the effect of Great Britain, and Great Britain got their divide and conquer formula from Rome. Great Britain took Rome's formula, Marcus Aurelius and all of them, and they sophisticated it, and they took his method of conquer, and they shed blood just the same way he did, and they carved up the Middle East, and they separated everybody and put different policies and so-called freedom on everybody, and religious ideas and sanctions and all of that, and they divided the people because the people no longer agreed on those different sanctions that Great Britain was imposing on everybody, and they became enemies.
Right.
And so what Great Britain would do, they would find out about these disagreements, and they would play both sides. And if one area would disagree with another one, and if they would go to war, whoever Great Britain felt like would be more useful to them, they would supply them with their military arms to go against someone else. And when you have war in between two people, what that does, that builds up a whole lot of animosity because of the loss of life. And like they told me when I was over there, the effects of war guarantee more warfare for the next 100 to 200 years.
And we
because
know
of the animosity.
And you know, they say war is the most profitable business, at least for the white man or the Jew.
Yeah. And so this is the reason why Sting was saying history will teach us nothing. I don't think people understand how powerful that song is. And when I first heard that song, my mother was playing it. I said, Mama, do you know how powerful that song is? I said, do you know what he's talking about? He said history will teach us nothing. He's telling you in that song. That's a song that is based on the effects of historical accounts. It's teaching us to hate one another. Therefore, it's teaching us nothing. It has nothing to offer humanity at all. Nothing. The history between Rome and Egypt, the historical accounts, creates animosity, and people at each other's throats right now. The history of between the Palestinians and the Jews, it's history. It's the cause of the division and the bloodshed. It's history. History produces that. Therefore, it's information. This is what I would tell an angel. It is information that has divided the human family. It's information. That's why he's so messed up. That's why he was sitting at the table with them people, arguing at their dinner table. Information. Everybody's going at each other's throats because angel says one thing, the woman's son said another thing, then a woman gets involved, and I'm sitting there at the table asking them, where is the love? I don't see no love at this table. All I see is a bunch of people going at each other's throats because of information that none of you are the originator of.